Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are really immersing ourselves in a case that just gripped everyone, didn't it? The 2021 killing of Gabby Petito by her fiancé, Brian Laundrie.
Absolutely. It was everywhere. And it wasn't just a tragedy playing out. It felt like this real-time investigation unfolding across, YouTube, Instagram, even police body cams.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive maybe a bit different. Our sources aren't just dusty old files.
No, not at all. We've got this mix of public records, official investigation findings, but also these viral media reports, TikToks, witness accounts online. It's all woven together.
So our goal here, our mission, is to cut through some of that noise, right?
Precisely. We want to use all these sources to really meticulously piece together the timeline, not just the disappearance, but the investigation itself, and crucially explore why it got so much attention and what the legal and societal fallout really looks like now.
Okay, before we dive into the whole story, the van life journey and everything, let's just nail down the absolute core facts because, boy, did the speculation run wild.
Good idea. So Gabby Petito, she was 22. The official finding is that she was killed around August 27, 2021.
And this was out in Wyoming.
That's right, in the Bridger Teton National Forest, a really remote, rugged area.
And her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, he didn't report her missing.
No, he drove back to his parents' place in Florida alone in their van. And when police started asking questions, he and his family just, they lawyered up, said nothing.
Became a person of interest pretty fast.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Then he disappeared. Was reported missing by his parents.
And eventually?
Eventually, his remains were found in a Florida nature reserve.
Yeah.
It was ruled a suicide. And the FBI later confirmed, chillingly, that a notebook found near him contained a confession. He admitted he killed Gabby.
Wow. Okay, so let's rewind. Let's start at the beginning with Gabby herself and this whole van life dream they were pursuing. That aesthetic was so central to how this started.
It really was. Gabby Petito, born 1999, Blue Point, New York. Pretty typical suburban background, graduated high school in 2017.
And that's where she met Laundrie.
Yep, that's where they first met. Before the big trip, she worked regular jobs, hostess, pharmacy tech at Publix, even Taco Bell for a bit. Standard stuff.
But she was building this online persona, right? Very focused on travel, art.
Exactly. Her passion was documenting life, travels, her Instagram, her YouTube channel. It was all about art, yoga, vegetarianism, the beauty of the journey. And that documentation, which seemed so, innocent.
Yeah, kind of aspirational.
It inadvertently set the stage for this massive public focus later on. It gave people a story to follow.
And the relationship itself?
They started dating officially March 2019,
Uh-huh.
moved in pretty quickly with his parents down in Northport, Florida.
And they got engaged.
Engaged July 2020, yeah. So the trip wasn't just a whim. They planned it meticulously.
Right, the van. She bought that 2012 Ford Transit Connect, I think December 2020.
That's the one. And they spent months converting it into a camper van. This was a serious commitment. They both quit their jobs to save up.
Sources said she was working crazy hours, right?
Yeah.
Like 50-hour weeks between jobs.
Yeah, she worked as a nutritionist. He was at an organic juice bar. They were really saving hard for this 4-month cross-country adventure they had planned.
So the trip starts July 2nd, 2021, leaving from New York. And for a while, it looked like the dream, didn't it?
For the first, 5 weeks, it really did seem to match the online image. We have records, social media posts from specific places, Monument Rocks in Kansas,
Great sand dunes, Zion, Bryce Canyon.
Mystic Hot Springs, Canyonlands in Utah, all these iconic Western spots. It looked idyllic.
Until August 12th. Moab, Utah. That's where the image just shatters.
Yeah, that's part 2, isn't it? The domestic disturbance incident. This is the first time the public, or at least authorities, intervene. And it becomes hugely important later.
Because we have actual evidence from that day, the 911 call, the body cam.
Exactly. It's a critical pivot point. It started with a 911 call. Someone saw a fight right outside the Moonflower Community Cooperative.
And the caller was specific, wasn't he? He reported seeing Laundrie.
He reported seeing the man, Laundrie, hit the woman, Petito, slap her twice, before they drove off erratically towards Arches National Park.
And another witness backed some of that up, mentioned arguing.
Yeah, another witness spoke to police later, confirmed the arguing, said Petito looked like she was maybe punching his arm, and Laundrie was trying to keep her out of the van, took her phone. So, definite signs of conflict.
So the police find the van.
Moab City police located them pretty quickly, pulled them over, and that body cam footage, it's just incredibly hard to watch.
She's so distressed.
Visibly distraught. Sobbing, can barely breathe. It takes several minutes before she can even really talk coherently, just completely overwhelmed.
But then when she does talk, she tries to downplay it, right?
Massively.
Yeah.
Her first explanation is all about external stress. She blames her really bad OCD, talks about cleaning, the pressure of starting her website and blog.
She mentioned quitting her job just before.
Yeah, she just quit, trying to make this online thing work. And she felt Laundrie didn't believe in her, didn't think she could do it. That seemed to be a huge source of anxiety for her.
In the fight that morning?
She said it started because he wouldn't let her back in the van after they argued. But she initially avoids mentioning the physical stuff.
Until the officer points out marks?
Exactly. The officer sees marks on her arm, her face, and pushes her a bit. Asks her to be honest. And that's when she admits it.
What did she say he did?
She admitted Laundrie kept telling her to shut up and then grabbed her face. Forcibly enough to leave a mark.
In Laundrie's story.
Completely different narrative. According to the police report, he paints Petito as the one losing control. He claimed he was just trying to get some space, take a breather, because she was getting worked up.
Did he admit she hit him?
He claimed she hit him first, yeah, with her phone while trying to get his keys.
But the police report did note she admitted hitting him first.
It did. The officer wrote that Laundrie tried to create distance, told her to take a walk, but she didn't want to be separated and started slapping him. Then Laundrie grabbed her face and pushed her back.
And the police decided, what? Not domestic violence.
That's the crucial controversial part. They classified it as a mental breakdown or mental health crisis, not domestic assault. Said both contributed to disorderly conduct.
And that classification matters legally, doesn't it?
Hugely.
Yeah.
Because classifying it that way allowed them to bypass Utah's mandatory arrest law for domestic violence incidents. They didn't have to arrest anyone.
So instead, they just separated them.
For the night, yeah. They put Laundrie up in the Bowen Motel in Moab, and Petito stayed in the van.
Even though she asked them not to, the body cam shows her pleading, right?
Heartbreakingly, yes. She explicitly asked them not to separate them. Which, domestic violence experts often point to that as a sign of dependency or maybe fear.
And this decision immediately caused problems.
Oh yeah, massive scrutiny later. Moab PD launched an internal investigation into whether the officers followed policy. Specifically, whether they used something called the Lethality Assessment Protocol, the LAP.
Okay, the Lethality Assessment Protocol, or LAP. You hear that term a lot with this case. What exactly is it, and why was it so critical here?
Right, so the LAP isn't just like a suggestion. In many places, including Utah at the time for domestic violence calls, it's a mandatory screening tool. It's a set list of questions officers must ask the potential victim.
Questions about?
Questions designed to quickly gauge the risk of lethal violence. Things like, has he ever choked you? Does he own weapons? Has he threatened to kill you or himself? Does the violence happen more often or get worse? Do you feel like he might kill you? Really direct, specific questions.
And if they'd ask Gabby those questions?
The argument, certainly in the later lawsuit, was that based on the circumstances, the visible injury the fight described, her extreme distress, she likely would have screened as high risk. Especially if they'd probed the grabbing the face incident, which relates to potential choking or restriction of breathing.
And what happens if someone screens as high risk? What's the mandatory next step?
If they screen high risk, the protocol mandates immediate action. The officer has to right then and there connect the victim by phone with a trained advocate from a local domestic violence shelter or hotline.
Regardless of whether she wants to press charges.
Exactly. It's about immediate safety planning and support, bypassing the victim's potential fear or reluctance at that moment. The allegation against the Moab officers was that they either didn't do the LAP screening at all or didn't follow through when they should have. They skipped a mandatory step designed to protect victims like Gabby.
And the police chief ended up taking leave during that review.
Yes, the police chief took a leave of absence while the city investigated the handling of the incident. It became a huge point of contention.
Okay, so that's the Moab incident. Incredibly disturbing. Now let's trap the final days after that. Things get even stranger, don't they? This flight Laundrie took.
Very strange. So August 17th, just 5 days after the Moab stop, Laundrie flies from Salt Lake City back to Tampa, Florida.
Leaving Gabby behind.
Leaving her totally alone at a Fairfield Inn and Suites near Salt Lake City. He doesn't come back and rejoin her until August 23rd, 6 days apart.
What was the reason given for that? His family attorney said something.
Yeah, the family lawyer later put out a statement saying Brian needed to fly back to Florida to obtain some items and empty and close the storage unit to save money. Apparently they were thinking about extending the trip.
Okay, whether you buy that explanation or not, it's 6 days she's alone after that traumatic incident.
Exactly. And then he returns August 23rd. The timeline starts to speed up towards the end. Gabby's mom said her last proper voice call with Gabby was August 25th.
And Gabby said they were heading towards the Tetons.
Yep, Grand Teton in Yellowstone. That was the plan she communicated. Same day, August 25th, is the last Instagram post from Gabby, those photos in Ogden, Utah, by the butterfly mural. Then August 27th, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. This is the last day anyone confirmed seeing her alive. Starts with that incident at the restaurant.
The Mary Picklett's Tex-Mex restaurant. A witness account described Laundrie being really aggressive, arguing with staff manager, waitress, hostess. Seemed like it might have been about money.
And Gabby came back later.
The witness saw Petito come back into the restaurant alone, visibly crying and apologizing for Laundrie's behavior. The restaurant confirmed they were there that day.
And right after that, the last concrete sighting. The Whole Foods.
Yes, CCTV footage from the Whole Foods in Jackson. You can see them arrive, go in, come out, get back in the van. The timestamps are between 2:11 p.m. and 2:56 p.m. on August 27th.
And they drive off. Which way?
They're seen driving north on Highway 89. That's the road that leads directly towards the Bridger Teton National Forest and the Spread Creek camping area.
And almost immediately after that last visual confirmation, the communication starts getting really weird.
Extremely weird. It strongly suggests Laundrie was already trying to cover his tracks.
Okay, walk us through those texts again. The first one that worried her mom was August 27th.
Right, same day as the Whole Foods sighting. Her mom gets a text, supposedly from Gabby, saying, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls."
And the red flag was Stan.
Exactly. Her mom knew instantly something was off. Gabby never called her grandfather Stan. It was always Grandpa Stan or Gramps. That just wasn't her language.
Then nothing for a few days until August 30th.
August 30th, the final text from Gabby's phone. It just read, "No service in Yosemite."
Which her mom definitely didn't believe came from Gabby.
No way. Yosemite is hundreds of miles from Wyoming, and her mom was already deeply suspicious after the Stan text. She knew Gabby wasn't sending those messages.
And investigators later figured out this was deliberate deception.
Oh, absolutely. They found evidence of text being sent between Laundrie's phone and Petito's phone after her death, trying to create this illusion of conversation. And that $700 money transfer.
From Gabby's account to Laundrie's.
Yes, with a message saying goodbye. The FBI concluded Laundrie did all this after he killed her to make it look like she was still alive, maybe ending the trip, and far away from Wyoming. A calculated alibi attempt.
While he's sending these fake texts, people are actually seeing him, right? Near that Spread Creek area.
Yes, and these eyewitness accounts become absolutely crucial, especially around August 29th. First, there was a witness who saw the van parked alone near Spread Creek on the 27th or 28th. No activity.
And this same witness saw Laundrie driving strangely before that.
Yeah, she mentioned seeing a young white guy, who she later realized was probably Laundrie, driving the van kind of slowly and weird on August 26th.
And her account, she posted it online, TikTok.
Yes. And that TikTok video, according to an FBI agent involved, was the key tip. It tipped the FBI off to the specific area where they eventually found Gabby's body. Amazing, really.
Yeah.
Citizen reporting directly leading the search.
Then the hitchhiking stories from August 29th.
Right, multiple accounts. First, a couple picked him up near Coulter Bay Village. They said he seemed okay at first, but then freaked out when they said they were going to Jackson Hole, not the town of Jackson.
Like he needed to go somewhere very specific.
Seemed like it.
Yeah.
He asked them to pull over less than 30 minutes later, near Jackson Lake Dam. Offered them $200 for this super short ride.
Which seemed weird too, right? He didn't look that rough.
Exactly. They said he claimed he'd been camping for days, but he didn't look particularly dirty. The whole interaction felt off.
And then another person picked him up.
Yes, a second woman picked him up near the dam around 6:20, 6:30 p.m. that same evening, August 29th. She drove him about 20 minutes.
And where did he ask to be dropped off?
Right at the entrance to the Spread Creek dispersed camping area. Just the entrance. Not further in where the van actually was, which was miles down the road. She said he seemed antsy and just wanted out right there.
And it's also on this day, August 29th, that the story shifts regarding his parents. The phone call?
This becomes a major point in the later civil suits. According to court documents based on, presumably, phone records and later depositions, Laundrie called his mother that day.
And the call was disturbing.
His parents later described his tone completely changing during the call. It sounded frantic by the end. His father called him back almost immediately, and that's when Brian allegedly said it. Gabby's gone.
Just gone.
Just gone. And then, crucially, I might need a lawyer. but apparently gave no other details about how she was gone or what happened.
So after that call, the strange hitchhiking, the fake texts, he heads back to Florida.
Drives the van cross-country, arriving back alone at his parents' house in Northport on September 1st.
And then, just a few days later, he goes camping with his parents.
Yeah, that's another detail that raised major red flags later. On September 6th and 7th, Brian and his parents went camping together at Fort DeSoto Park, just days after he got back without Gabby, and presumably after that Gabby's gone phone call.
Which the Petito family lawyers would later point to as evidence the parents knew more than they were letting on.
Exactly. It became part of the narrative, alleging their complicity or knowledge.
Okay, so Laundrie's back. Gabby's family can't reach her. Part 4, the investigation kicks off.
It moved fast once the official report was filed. Gabby's mom filed the missing person report on September 11th, after weeks of no real contact.
And Laundrie was named a person of interest. When?
Just 4 days later, September 15th. But by then, the Laundries weren't talking.
Right, the family lawyer was involved, and they just shut down completely. No cooperation with police, refused to speak to Gabby's family. It fueled so much public anger.
It really did. And then there was that huge mistake by the Northport police during their surveillance.
Oh yeah, tell us about that again. They thought they saw Brian.
They were watching the house. They saw Brian leave on September 13th. Then, on September 15th, they saw his car return. Someone got out, went inside. The surveillance team mistakenly logged it as Brian returning home.
But it wasn't him.
It wasn't him. But based on that bad info, the police chief, Todd Garrison, went on TV on September 16th and said, very confidently, all I'm going to say is, we know where Brian Laundrie is at.
Which was totally wrong.
Completely wrong. Because the very next day, September 17th, Laundrie's parents reported him missing. Said they hadn't seen him since the 13th.
So the police realized.
They realized they'd messed up. They had mistaken Brian's mother, Roberta, for Brian on the 15th when she came back in his car. It meant Laundrie had potentially been missing for 4 days before anyone was actually looking for him.
What a mess. But while all this confusion about Brian was happening, the search for Gabby was zeroing in based on those witness tips.
Exactly. The focus shifted heavily to that Spread Creek dispersed camping area in Wyoming, thanks to those TikToks and hitchhiker accounts.
And they found her.
On September 19th, just over a week after she was reported missing, human remains were found right there in the Spread Creek area, near where the van had been seen. They were quickly confirmed to be Gabby's.
And the autopsy results were brutal.
They were. Homicide. The cause of death was officially blunt force injuries to the head and neck with manual strangulation, just horrific violence.
Well, and they estimated when she died?
The coroner estimated she had died 3 to 4 weeks before her body was found, which puts a time frame right around late August, consistent with those last sightings on August 27th.
So Gabby's death is confirmed as a homicide. Laundrie is missing. What happens next legally?
The investigation kicks into high gear to find Laundrie. An arrest warrant was issued for him on September 23rd.
But not for murder yet.
Not for murder initially.
Wow.
The warrant was for unauthorized use of Gabby's debit card specifically, using it to withdraw $1,000 or more between August 30th and September 1st after she was already dead.
So like bank fraud.
It's essentially, yes. But it was a federal charge that gave the FBI clear jurisdiction to pursue him nationwide as a fugitive. Meanwhile, they were collecting DNA from his parents' house, clearly preparing for the possibility he wouldn't be found alive.
Which brings us to part 5, the search for Brian Laundrie himself. This went on for weeks in those Florida swamps.
It did. A huge, intense search focused on areas near his home that he knew well, the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park and the Big T. Mabry Carlton Reserve next to it.
And it's a difficult terrain, right? Swamps, flooding.
Incredibly difficult. Dense vegetation, waterlogged areas, wildlife. Sources mention even Laundrie's father went out with investigators at one point to help search these places he knew Brian frequented, all while his sister was publicly pleading for him to turn himself in.
And the search finally ended when?
October 20th. Some of Laundrie's belongings, his backpack, the notebook were found in the Myakkahatchee Park.
Yeah.
And then nearby, his skeletal remains were discovered.
In an area that had been underwater.
Yes, that was key. It was an area that had recently been flooded, which is why search teams might have missed it earlier. The waters receded, revealing the site.
How did they confirm it was him and the cause of death?
They used dental records to confirm the identity. The initial autopsy was inconclusive because of the condition of the remains. They needed a forensic anthropologist.
And the final determination?
It was announced on November 23rd. The anthropologist confirmed he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. So the conclusion was murder-suicide.
And that leads us to the notebook, the confession.
The final piece. The FBI announced in January 2022 that the notebook found with his remains contained a written statement where Laundrie took responsibility for Gabby's death.
He admitted killing her.
Yes. He admitted killing her, and he also admitted sending those fake text messages afterwards to deceive people into thinking she was still alive. With that confession, the FBI officially closed their investigation, placing the blame squarely on Laundrie.
But when the full note came out later, June 2022, the story he told, it wasn't exactly a straightforward murder confession, was it?
Not at all. It was this very self-serving narrative. He tried to frame it as a merciful killing.
Claiming she was injured.
Yeah, he wrote this story about her falling into cold water, being in extreme pain, possibly injured badly. He claimed, "I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it is what she wanted, but now I see all the mistake I made." He tried to paint himself as distraught, unable to go on without her, leading to his own suicide.
But that just doesn't line up with the autopsy, does it?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
The forensic evidence showed manual strangulation and blunt force trauma to the head and neck. That's violent, deliberate action. It's not a gentle, merciful ending after an accidental fall.
Experts pointed that out, right? That this was likely justification after the fact.
Exactly. Experts like Michael Alcazar basically said, look, this note isn't an honest account. It's Laundrie trying to rationalize his horrific actions, trying to find some justification, maybe ease his own conscience before the end, rather than truly owning up to the brutality of the murder. It's a common psychological defense seen in these kinds of notes.
Okay, let's shift to part 6. This case just exploded in the public consciousness. Why? What made this different from so many other tragic cases?
It was a perfect storm, really, fueled by the digital age. First, you had the van life documentation. They built this online narrative people were already following. It felt personal.
And then Laundrie's silence and his parents.
That was huge. Their refusal to cooperate, hiring a lawyer immediately. It just screamed guilt to the public and fueled intense speculation and anger. People felt stonewalled.
Plus, we had that incredibly raw evidence becoming public so quickly.
Right. The body cam footage was visceral. The 911 call audio was chilling. And then you had the public actively participating witnesses posting on TikTok, sharing dash cam video. That TikTok finding the van location is a prime example. Public sleuthing actually moved the investigation forward.
It had all the elements for a media frenzy, didn't it?
Totally. Young, attractive couple, the romantic getaway gone wrong narrative, the backdrop of cross-country travel, which resonated during the pandemic, plus the general huge interest in true crime. It just ticked all the boxes for massive media coverage.
But that intense focus also brought up a really uncomfortable, important critique. Missing white woman syndrome.
Yes, that conversation became unavoidable. The term itself describes how missing person cases involving young, attractive white women from middle class or upper middle class backgrounds get vastly disproportionate media coverage and law enforcement resources compared to cases involving people of color or those from marginalized communities.
And the comparison in Wyoming itself was stark.
Incredibly stark. News outlets started highlighting the stats. Around 710 indigenous people, mostly women and girls, were reported missing in or near that same area of Wyoming between 2011 and 2020.
710.
Yes. An epidemic of missing and murdered indigenous people receiving a tiny fraction of the media attention or national outcry that Gabby's case generated. It laid bare a really disturbing bias in what kinds of stories get told and whose lives seem to matter more in the public eye.
How did Gabby's family react to that comparison, to that term?
It was interesting. Her father, Joseph Petito, initially said he was uncomfortable with the term, felt it maybe politicized their tragedy, but very quickly he acknowledged the reality of the disparity.
And he started using his platform.
Yes, he and the family have actively used the Gabby Petito Foundation and their public profile to advocate for all missing persons cases, specifically drawing attention to the lack of resources for cases involving marginalized groups. They've been involved in projects like Faces of the Missing to try and bridge that gap. It's been a powerful response.
And one strange side effect of the huge search efforts, they found other bodies.
Bizarrely, yes. Because so many volunteers and officials were combing such vast areas looking for Gabby and then Brian, the searches inadvertently led to the discovery of remains belonging to at least 5 other unrelated missing persons in different locations. A very somber, unintended consequence.
Okay, finally, part 7, the legal aftermath. The criminal case closed with Laundrie's death, but the civil lawsuits continued for years.
That's right. First, there was this symbolic but important wrongful death lawsuit against Laundrie's estate.
How much was awarded?
Petito's estate was awarded $3 million in November 2022. But realistically, recovery was unlikely, given Laundrie had very few assets. It was more about legal accountability.
The bigger fight seemed to be the lawsuit against Laundrie's parents and their lawyer.
Oh, definitely. That was explosive. Gabby's parents sued Christopher and Roberta Laundrie and their attorney Steve Bertolino for intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Alleging they knew Gabby was dead and deliberately withheld information.
Exactly. The core allegation was that Brian called them on August 29th, said Gabby was gone, asked for a lawyer, and that the parents then knew Gabby was dead but chose to say nothing, hindering the search and causing immense pain to the Petito family, who were desperately searching. They argued that silence was outrageous conduct.
And that lawsuit was settled.
It was. After going through mediation, it was settled out of court in February 2024. The terms weren't disclosed, but it brought that specific legal battle to an end.
Then there was the other major lawsuit, the one against the Moab police.
Yes, the $50 million wrongful death lawsuit against the Moab City Police Department. This one aimed directly at the officers' actions during that August 12th traffic stop.
What were the specific claims there, mentioning Officer Pratt?
The amended complaint got very specific. It alleged Officer Eric Pratt basically admitted in a later statement that he knew Laundrie posed a threat, but chose to ignore domestic violence laws. And crucially, it claimed the officers failed entirely to follow that mandatory lethality assessment protocol, the LAP screening.
Arguing that if they had followed protocol, Gabby might have been saved.
That was the core argument, that proper intervention, connecting her with resources as mandated by the LAP, could have broken the cycle, or at least given her a pathway to safety before things escalated fatally weeks later.
But that lawsuit was dismissed.
It was dismissed in November 2024. But the reason why is critical. It wasn't dismissed because the judge thought the officers acted perfectly.
It was dismissed because of immunity.
Exactly. The judge cited Utah's Governmental Immunity Act, which basically shields government agencies, like police departments, from many types of lawsuits, unless there's gross negligence or the immunity has been specifically waived by the legislature for that type of claim.
So a legal technicality, essentially.
Pretty much. But here's the kicker. Even while dismissing the case on immunity grounds, the judge wrote in his ruling that the officers' actions, their conduct during that stop, could plausibly have contributed to Gabby's death.
Wow. So the judge acknowledged the potential link, even while legally bound to dismiss.
Precisely. It's a stunning statement. It validates the family's core concern about the police interaction, even though the lawsuit itself couldn't proceed based on the immunity law. Gabby's parents are appealing that dismissal to the Utah Supreme Court.
And the story continues to be told in media, right? Lifetime movie, Netflix series.
Yeah, the Lifetime movie The Gabby Petito Story came out in 2022. And there's a Netflix docuseries, American Murder, Gabby Petito, apparently coming in 2025. The case clearly continued to resonate.
So wrapping this up, what are the big takeaways from this deep dive into the sources?
I think it starkly shows the double-edged sword of our hyper-documented lives. Social media provided clues, witness videos were crucial, it helped find her. But that same visibility fueled the media circus and highlighted the deep biases in whose story gets that kind of attention. The whole missing white woman syndrome critique is essential.
And the focus on the police interaction in Moab, that feels like a really lasting impact.
Absolutely. The conversation shifted. It wasn't just about the tragic outcome, but about potential points of intervention. Could something different have happened during that police stop? That question looms large.
Which leads us to that final provocative thought for you, the listener. We know the Moab lawsuit was dismissed due to governmental immunity, but the judge himself acknowledged the officer's conduct could have played a role in Gabby's death.
So the question becomes, how do we get better? How do we train police, first responders, to recognize the nuances of domestic violence, especially when a victim like Gabby is minimizing the danger or resisting help? How do we make sure they use tools like the lethality assessment protocol correctly every single time?
And maybe even bigger, what needs to change legislatively? If governmental immunity can shield departments from accountability even when protocols are allegedly ignored and potential harm is acknowledged by a judge, does that law need reform to better protect victims in these critical moments?
Lots to think about there. And we really do encourage you to check out the work the Gabby Petito Foundation is doing. They're focused on raising awareness and helping other families navigate these awful situations, especially for marginalized groups.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.